but
appreciate the chance to share about what God's doing, and I just want to share a little bit more about camps, and then get into something this morning in the Word. But kind of what's taking place right now, and what's been going on. When this whole thing started back beginning of March, we really felt like there were two huge obstacles in order to make this week of camp happen. And our other weeks of camp are really geared toward churches. Churches bringing their youth groups from all over the state in Oregon and Nevada. And youth pastors are able to come and have a great camp without having to put on a camp. So they don't have to worry about all the logistics of planning and speaking and all the activities. We basically run the whole camp for them. And so they're able to just come with their youth staff and their youth leaders and spend a week with the kids. And it's great, and we love it, and we've seen it grow. But like I said in the video, we really felt burdened to reach kids who don't have a church, kids who aren't in a church, and they don't have youth leaders and people investing in their lives. So this week opened up. It's been open for a long time, and we decided to go for it. But these two obstacles, one obviously is finances. To say we're going to provide 200 scholarships for 200 kids at $300 a person is that's a lot of money in a short period of time. We're not talking about a whole year to do this. We're talking about 2-3 months. So people say we're crazy, but God just put this on our heart, and we feel like this is what we're supposed to do.
Amen.
So these obstacles, finances, and then the second one was where we're going to find the kids. How are we practically going to find these kids? It sounds like a great idea. You're going to walk out in the streets and just say, who wants to go to a free camp? Everybody wants to go to a free camp. But how do we find kids that don't know Jesus? And so for me, we started thinking, okay, we can go through the rescue mission. There's other organizations we can go through, maybe foster agencies. There's a lot of different things that started coming to our mind. Ultimately, the best place to find kids is in this public school system, right? And so, but thought, that's not going to happen. So we're going to have to go other means to find kids. Well, God's got other plans for when He wants something done. And basically, I was in contact with another youth pastor in town. He said, hey, I got a guy you got to meet. I'm like, all right, I like meeting people. Let's meet him. So he is the Enterprise School District Superintendent for all the Enterprise School District public schools. He's a Christian who wants to meet you. All right, let's meet. So we sit down. I share this vision with him. I talk to him about everything, and he's like, stops me. He's like, this is amazing. I'm in. Tells me that he's been looking for ways for the school, the kids in his school district to connect with the church. How can I use my influence as being the superintendent of schools, public schools? How can I basically be able to share Jesus with them outside of the school, because I can't do it in the school, but how can we find ways to partner with people? So he gets excited about it, and he's just like, we're going to do this. And I'm going to help you find kids in my school district. And I'm like, okay, if there was one person in the whole city I couldn't have picked a better person to bump into. I was praying, God, just in the grocery store. I'll meet him in the grocery store. I'll meet him in In-N-Out Burger. I don't care where it is, but just bump me into somebody who can find these kids. So here I am sitting with this guy, and he says, hey, I got 2 other buddies of mine that I want you to meet. They're also superintendents. These are the big dogs, the superintendents of schools. So the Gateway superintendent, his name is Jim Farrell, and Reading School District superintendent, which is Rick Foss. So I'm sitting at lunch with those 3 guys, Brian Winstead, Rick Foss, and Jim Farrell, the 3 big superintendents, and they're just excited, and they're all on board. And they're telling me, we're going to help you find these kids. This is amazing. Our goal for this is that youth pastors and youth leaders from all over Reading come up to camp to spend the week with the kids. So that they don't just go home and they've had a great week, they met Jesus, and they go home and they're not connected to a church. They've got to be connected to a local church. So having youth leaders up there who can get to know them and spend time with them for the week, and then they go home and they have a connection. Hey, we have youth group home Wednesday night or whatever. They thought, these 3 superintendents were like, what a great way for kids to go and spend a week, hear about Jesus, to get away from everything, and then to come back and have a connection. And so they're on board, and they started, like, let's meet again. They had me come to this, I'm going to fall down before this day is over. I almost fell down in the first service. They had me come to this other meeting and share with all these other organizations in Reading that are trying to do things, and a lot of people have been jumping on board and trying to help us find kids. But bottom line is, so then I met with them again, and it was like, how are we practically going to do this? I know you say you want to help me find, like, how are we really going to get into the schools and do this? So it's just been amazing. God has, we met with some principals, they then got us in touch with principals. Boulder Creek, Mistletoe, Sycamore, Parsons, all have Christian principals. All have principals who are Christians. And I met with them, and they basically came up with this practical way that we're going to come in and do rallies, school assemblies, and they're going to let us show our camp video. They're going to let us promote. They're going to let us give away things. They're going to let us, the kids were able to fill out cards with their name, information that they were interested in going to a summer camp, and with the chance of it being completely free. We're not narrowing it to just those kids, underprivileged kids. It's any kid can qualify for our camps. We have all different camps for all different ages. It's just been amazing. So this last Friday, we did our first one, and through that, the need for hungry kids. We're sitting there in this meeting with the Parsons principal, and she's saying, we have kids coming to school. Parsons is 77% under the poverty level. 77% of the kids at Parsons. 579 kids in the school. She says, we're seeing kids, so they get free lunches, free food. I mean, the kids line up for it. She says, we're seeing kids leave on Friday, having eaten, show back up on Monday, starving, hungry, haven't eaten, haven't been taken care of all weekend. And so through that, talked with Pastor Aaron, and that's how this whole backpack thing, you guys being a part of it, and other churches that want to be a part of it, they got excited about the fact that we could send a backpack home with kids full of food for the weekend, and then Monday they can bring it back. They can check it out again the next weekend. Just non-perishable foods. So the superintendents are like, can you do it at Rother? They're already asking, like, you're doing it at Parsons, can you do it at Rother? Can you do it at Mistletoe? Can you come and do assemblies? Can you, So it's just crazy right now, like what God's doing and bringing, like, superintendents and teachers in Reading. It's incredible. So it's confirming to what God has set out to do. You guys can be praying about how you can be involved, volunteer, help, backpacks, food, whatever. But and if you want to volunteer at our camps or some of the stuff that we're doing, there's so much that can be done. So I just want to share you with that. The ultimate goal of all this is that kids will come and meet Jesus.
Amen.
And they'll meet Jesus, and then their lives will be changed. They'll go home and they'll have the ability to impact their family, and you just never know where that leads, And so it's really exciting. I want to share with you guys this morning a few things that God's been challenging me with, and over the last couple of years, some things that really whenever I speak, I always want to speak out of where I'm at and what I feel. I don't want to share something that I don't think God has been hammering on me about. And so that's kind of what I want to share this morning. The point of it is, I think the thing that's really happening right now is that God is really trying to raise up and call out leaders. That we are called to be leaders, that you are called to lead something. We are given opportunities to stand up and take lead. And those opportunities are presented, and we have the chance to either grab them or not. But that no matter what, it doesn't matter what job or vocation or what we do, or man or woman or whatever, we have an opportunity to be leaders. We have an opportunity to lead, and we've been called to that. We've been called to lead. And so I want to look at a story this morning that we all know really well. And that's the story of David. story of David and Goliath in 1 Samuel 17. If you have a Bible, you can turn there. 1 Samuel 17 is kind of where we're gonna land. I'm going to move down to verse 14 and start there. Most of us know this story of David and Goliath. We've heard it. In verse 14, chapter 17, it says, David was the youngest son. David's 3 older brothers stayed with Saul's army, but David went back and forth so that he could help his father with the sheep in Bethlehem. For 40 days, every morning and evening, the Philistine champion strutted in front of the Israelite army. One day, Jesse said to David, take this basket of roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread and carry them quickly to your brothers. Okay, so if you know the story, David is the shepherd kid, right? His brothers are in the army. He's taking food. He's watching the sheep. He's going and he's checking on his brothers. Dad says, hey, go check on your brothers. Take them some food. So he goes and he gets there. And what's been happening is for 40 days, this dude, Goliath, giant guy, has been coming out to the crowd of these trained men in the military. You know, these are guys that are trained for battle. And he's coming out in front of them and he's taunting them. For 40 days, this happens. David comes in. Now, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like maybe I would feel like David, maybe I wouldn't. But you get there and you're taking bread and you're looking at your army and your brothers. And probably a lot of us would go, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like, isn't there someone that can go fight him? Can't you get a group of guys? Can we figure something out? It's been 40 days. Are we tired of hearing this guy? Anybody with me? You kind of think like, man, something's got to be going on. What's happening? So here's David, the shepherd kid, the shepherd dude. He comes in with some bread. And he starts asking questions. He starts doing that. He's asking around, what's going on? Why is everybody... Well, so what happens? King Saul hears about it. And what does he do? He's summoned. He calls for David. Bring this guy. What's going on with this kid? He's talking some crazy stuff. You know, bring him in. So they bring him in. Why is nobody fighting this guy? Verse 32. Skip down. We're skipping down the story. Verse 32. So he's meeting with Saul, and he says this, don't worry about this Philistine, David told Saul. I'll go fight him. Okay? Odd. What does Saul say back? Don't be ridiculous. Saul replied, there's no way you can fight this Philistine and possibly win. And you're only a boy. And he's a man of war since his youth. David persisted, I've been taking care of my father's sheep and goats. Okay, so like you freeze it right there, and it's kind of an odd, weird deal. And you'd kind of be going, what is, you know, I think we'd all think the same as Saul. This is ridiculous. You've been hanging out with the sheep. I've got a bunch of trained men here. And, you know, head on back to the sheep. You know, thanks for the bread. It's just kind of odd. But then David goes on. He's got a speech. He's ready to deliver this leader-type speech. Okay? And so he says, I've been taking care of my father's sheep and goats. He said, when a lion or bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club. It's pretty cool. I rescue the lamb from its mouth. And if the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw, and I club it to death. Pretty sweet, too. I have done this to both lions and bears. And I'll do it to this pagan Philistine too, for he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who's rescued me from the claw of the lion and the bear will rescue me from the Philistine. Okay, so David comes out with this sweet, powerful, like, rah-rah, like, speech. Sounds good, but really, let's be honest, he's not just making this up. He's talking about his history. He's